Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. The title of today's webinar is Member Tools and Reports. And what we're going to be spending the time on today is to go through some of the reports in the system, as well as some of the functions in the system that help you to better analyze your membership, look at the numbers, also to communicate with your chapter, invite visitors, all of these things more effectively. A couple of housekeeping tips. Today's webinar is being recorded, as are just about all of the webinars that we do here in BNI Connect. You can find those webinars later if you'd like to review them or pass them along to other chapter members by going to the support site, which you can get to by clicking on this question mark here in BNI Connect. That'll bring you to support.bniconnect.com, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a training section. And in that training section is webinars. We break them out by month. So for example, if you'd like to review one of the May webinars that have been uploaded, you can click on May and review any of these webinars. And these ones will be up there shortly. In addition, you can find the webinars, all of them, on youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. We upload all of the webinars here, and there are tons and tons of webinars up here and some special announcements by Dr. Meisner and some other things that you can find. So please go and find them up there as well. And you can even subscribe to that channel if you'd like updates for when new webinars become available. Because this is a live webinar, you can also ask questions as we're going along. The best way to do that is to type your question right into the question control panel. Alternatively, if you are on a computer that has a microphone, or if you are dialed in by a telephone connection as well, you can raise your hand in the software, and I'd be happy to open up your microphone so that you can ask your question out loud. So let's take a look at this, at these tools and reports here in BNI Connect. So as you can see, I have logged into BNI Connect, and this is the home screen. This is where you do a lot of things with the online slips, which you can get to through this bottom function down here. We do have a whole webinar dedicated just to the online slip, so I'm not going to cover that today. We're going to go a little bit deeper into the system and take a look at some of the functions. Now, you'll notice along the top, you'll see some menu items, and you may see some or all of these depending on your level of access in BNI Connect. We have the home button, which will always take us back to the home screen here. We have the network button, which brings us into the social media components of BNI Connect, so the groups, the connections, the testimonials. The operations button is where you can do things in BNI Connect. Most notably, if you're on the leadership team, let's say that you're the vice president of your chapter, this is where you're going to go to enter your POMS reports. If you are a secretary-treasurer, this is where you would go to upload the speaker rotation, or if you're a mentor coordinator, this is where you'd go to assign mentors in the system. As a regular chapter member, there are going to be some functions here for you as well, and I'll show you those in just a minute. The reports are where we get the information back out of the system. One of the great things about being a BNI member is that, as a chapter member, chapters record all of the activity on a weekly basis. So you can pull up reports on your training history. You can pull reports on your chapter history. You can pull up reports on other members in your chapter, so you could do, let's say, a games exchange before you meet with them. And there's even some reports for keeping notes in a meeting, and we'll get into those in a few minutes as well. The tools are some specialized functions. If you're a chapter webmaster, you'd find the CMS editor, the content management system in there, for example. And most people on the call today, unless you're a director consultant or an executive director, the admin function is more back-end management tools. But let's start out and take a look at the operations menu. As I said, this is where you can go in and kind of do some things in BNI Connect. I'm going to click on operations, and you'll see I have a system admin level, so I can see all of the different functions, but you'll probably just see operations chapter. So click on Operations Chapter, and this will bring you into these functions. Now again, based on your permissions, you may or may not see all of these things on the left-hand side. If you're a visitor host, this is where you'd go in and add your visitors on a weekly basis so that they're added to the visitor database and they get a visitor email saying, thank you for coming to visit our chapter. Meeting management is mostly for the secretary-treasurers and the vice presidents. Manage memberships is mostly for the secretary-treasurers. Now, the goals program. This is something that as a chapter member you may or may not want to go into, but as your leadership team assigns the goals for the upcoming 6 months or the upcoming year for your chapter, you can go in and look at the progress that your chapter has made with your chapter goals by clicking on the View Chapter Goals function. And if you are a leadership team member, you would also have access to enter them. If you'd like to see what this looks like, let me go to a region that I know is using these goals on a regular basis. And this is what a chapter goals monitoring report would look like. So we can see what the leadership team has set up for goals on a number of different success drivers, and based on the POMS reports, what their current progress is on attaining those goals. And again, if you'd like to view these for your chapter, you can go to Operations, Goals, and View Chapter Goals. The mentoring program is for the mentoring coordinators, but let's take a look at this one. And this one is probably the best one from a member perspective that you can use to simplify your life a little bit. And that is creating emails through BNI Connect. Now, the first one here is a great tool for chapter members. Now, in the past, I've been a member of BNI for about 11 years now. I joined in 2002. I'm still a member here in the Wakefield chapter in Rhode Island. If I wanted to email my chapter before we had BNI Connect, what I would have to do is to basically go back through all of my old emails and try to figure out who sent the last group email to the chapter and then hit reply all on it. Now, inevitably, somebody would be like a new member in the chapter. They'd be missing from that list, and they probably still had some members on those emails that were no longer members. So never seemed to be able to get the email out to all of the right people. Well, through Operations Chapter, Create Email, and then Email My Chapter, I can now get a most current list of all of my chapter members. So all I need to do is click this button, and we'll see a pop-up show up on the screen here. This will have a list, and it's semicolon separated, of all of the members within my chapter. Now, the easiest thing to do, I can highlight these, or I can hit Control-A while I'm clicked in there, and that'll select all. And then I just right-click and choose Copy. At that point, what I would do is just start a new message in Microsoft Outlook or Gmail or whatever program it is that you use, drop those into the BCC field, and start typing your email. And once I hit send, this will go to all of the people in my chapter. No more hunting around for all of those email addresses and hoping that I got them all correctly. Now, similarly, we have the email visitor invitation. This is a great tool for inviting people to your chapter. Going back before BNI Connect, if I was out at a networking event, let's say I went to the local Chamber of Commerce First Friday Coffee, and I met some people that I'd like to invite to come and visit my chapter. I could send them a letter, I could call them, I could try to explain where a chapter meets, and if I was to type an email out, I'd probably tend to get annoyed writing out the same information over and over again. Well, now with just a couple of clicks, you can send a very professional-looking email invitation to a potential visitor of your chapter. We do that by clicking on Email Visitor Invitation. All we have to do is fill out a couple of fields. So I'm going to actually send an email to myself here so I can see what it looks like, and you're welcome to do the same. It doesn't get stored anywhere. It doesn't go into any kind of database or anything like that. It's just an email template so that you can send an invitation to your chapter quickly and easily. So I'm going to send this to John Doe from Acme Company, and I'm going to put my own email address in here. You can type a quick personal message. It was great meeting you at the chamber event. I look forward to seeing you at my BNI meeting this week. And I'd click Send. Now, once I click send, it's going to take this information, my personal message, insert it into an email template that then gets emailed directly to that email address. The great thing about it is that it will have a logo. It has a BNI logo in there, a nice graphic that's associated with it. It has all of my chapter details, when we meet, where we meet, and some nice verbiage inviting them to the chapter. That should pop up in my Outlook any second now, and I'll be able to show that to you. While we're waiting for that message to show up, let's take a look at the final option here under the Create Email, and that is to email chapter visitors. Now, assuming that your visitor host is entering all of the visitors of your chapter into BNI Connect, the great thing about that is it starts to build a database. So there's a list of all of the visitors that have showed up to your chapter. And the other great thing is that if any of those visitors become members, they get removed out of that database. Now, this is powerful because we always do want to re-invite our visitors back to our chapter. And the way we can do that is through email chapter visitors. Now, this tool is very similar to the email chapter members, except that it allows you to further customize it in order to get just the people that you're looking for. So you can change the date range, and let's say that you wanted to go back and invite everybody that's been to your chapter in the past year. You could do that. And let's say that you were just doing a stack day for accounting, or just a stack day for lawyers, or something like that. You could choose the specific categories that they would have been listed under. Or you can just get a list of all your emails, all your visitors' emails. Once I click Next, it'll bring up the list of those visitors. And again, I can highlight those and copy and paste them into my own email program. Now, while I was talking, a couple of seconds after I started, my invitation to my chapter meeting did come through my inbox. And you can see it has that nice BNI graphic up here. It has the Dear John, since I sent it to John Doe. It has my personal message. It was great meeting you at the chamber event. I look forward to seeing you at my BNI meeting this week. Lets them know that they're cordially invited, the name of the chapter, where we meet, where it's located, and the date and time of the meeting. A brief introduction to what BNI is, and a call to please RSVP with you. Now, if they do respond to this, it will go back to my personal email. It was sent from me, and I can close this out. We do have a question from Scott. Scott says, what may be the reasons why I cannot see email visitor? Scott, almost everything in BNI Connect, so going back to the operations chapter menu, almost every single thing in here, all the menu items, those are controlled by the regional office. So if some of those things aren't listed, it means that either based on your role in BNI Connect, if you're a member, if you're a visitor host, or if you're a vice president or a secretary treasurer, those particular functions may be hidden from view. So if there's something that you see here that you would like access to, my suggestion is to talk with your director consultant of your chapter or your executive director for your region and say, hey, you know, I'd really like access to this function. Can you work with me on that? So hopefully that helps, Scott. Excellent. So those are the chapter operations. Let's take a look at some of the reports in the system that you may find helpful, especially as a member, to be able to view. So I'm going to go to Reports and Chapter. And there are a whole bunch of reports here. There's a big, long list of reports here on the left-hand side. I'm not going to go through all of the reports today. I'm just going to highlight on about half of them that I feel are great reports as a member to be able to use. The first one is just very simple. It's the chapter roster report. So if I click Go on this report, what we'll see is our chapter roster. Now, what I personally like about this report is that it also lists all of the different positions for people in your chapter. So this whole top portion will first show your leadership team and who's assigned to those various positions. So we can see we have our president, vice president, all of our visitor hosts listed, mentor coordinators, our growth coordinators, our webmasters. That way, if I have any type of issue in my chapter, I know exactly who to go to. If I have an idea for, let's say, having a stack day or a visitor day, I know who my growth coordinators are, and there's a phone number here for me to give them a call. If I have a bigger issue, my chapter director consultant is also listed here, so I could give him a call in order to talk through any issues that I have in my chapter. Now, these are people that you may or may not remember on a week-to-week basis, but when you do have that idea in your head and you need to know who to go to, this is a great report to pull up to do that. Below, it will also show all of the members of your chapter. It also has their classification, as well as their company name, phone number, and a brief snapshot of the POMS report. So it's a 90-day snapshot of the activity for each of those members over the last 90 days. Now, in all of these reports, wherever you see something underlined, it means that you can sort it by that particular field. So, for example, if I wanted to sort everything by first name instead of last name, I could click on Sort First, and it's going to sort all the names by first name instead of by last name. If I click it again, it'll reverse sort it alphabetically or sort it alphabetically. Same thing by last name. I can sort it by last name or click it again and sort it in the opposite direction. Same thing for classifications and company names. The other thing that we can do with just about every single report in the system is we can print them to your local printer if you'd like this on paper, or we can export them to Excel. So if I click Export, it will start the download of this report. I can click on it and open it up and have this report in Excel. Now, this is an important point because, for example, the report may or may not print perfectly. Some of the reports, especially if we look at, let's say, the VP report, which is coming up a little later, it's a really, really, really wide report. So you may want to analyze it a little bit further than you can do easily on screen. We have a question from Carla. What does the length of membership report mean? I don't have a chapter roster report option button. So again, Carla, if you're missing any of the buttons here, please talk to your direct consultant or your executive director. They may have hidden them for some reason or another. And the length of membership report will show you, let me jump right into that one. I'll click on this one. The length of membership report will show you how long people have been chapter members. So if I wanted to see, let's see if I want to see who the longest standing member in my chapter was, I could open this report and sort it by chapter length. And I can see that right now I am actually the longest reigning member in my group for 10 years and 11 months officially, with a very close second of Frank Karpowitz, the architect in our group, of 10 years and 8 months. So if you're looking for a good mentor in your group to learn more about BNI, this would be a great report to turn to find out who the long-standing and usually successful members are in that chapter. So Carla, does that help? All right, let's go back up towards the top. One of my other favorite reports in here is the meeting notes report. Now, one of the best ways to increase the ability to give referrals to other members of your chapter is to actually take notes while they're giving their 60 seconds. Now, some chapters do this. They'll pass out a piece of paper before the chapter meeting starts or put one in front of everybody's seat. I know that in our chapter, for a long time, that was a very, very lengthy manual process to be able to keep up with that particular list, just like keeping up with the mail list. The meeting notes report gives you a nice way to get the current chapter membership and be able to take notes during a meeting. This report is meant to be printed, so you can print this out and it would have a little bit of space to write down what they're looking for as they're going through their 60 seconds. This is also one of those great reports to be able to export it to Excel in order to get it just the way that you'd like it. Now, notice that this one has one also export without headers, which means it won't include all of this stuff at the top, all the extra information. So we'll see that with just a couple of clicks here. Let me enable editing on this. I could very easily turn this report into something that's very usable for me and be able to print it out. So I could, let's say, highlight these fields. I can format this as a table. So I can take notes here, and maybe I just want to have these be a little bit bigger so I have more room to write in them. Maybe I want this one to be a little bit wider and be able to just print this out and have it. If I wanted to do, for example, some cross lines on here, and that would make it so that I could print this out, take notes during the meeting, and be able to refer my fellow chapter members just a little bit easier. Now, the Summary POMS report, this is the meat and potatoes of your chapter activity. One thing to note is that you can, by default, it's going to choose the last 6 months of activity. However, you can change this date range to anything that you'd like it to be. You can look at the stats for the last year, for just the past month, for just the past couple of weeks, whatever range you would like to. Once I click Go, we'll have the full POMS report. Now, POMS, for those of you that may be new, POMS stands for present, so the number of times the person was at the meeting. A is absent, the number of times they were absent during that period. L is late, so the number of times they were late to that meeting. M is for medical leave. S is when they had a substitute there at the meeting. RGI and RGO are referrals given inside and referrals given outside. Now, the difference is that an inside referral is when one chapter member refers themselves to another chapter member. So it was an inside the chapter referral or a tier 1 referral. And RGO means that I've referred somebody to you that is outside of the chapter. So it could be a client, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be an uncle, somebody that I met at a networking event. It means that I've gone into my outside network in order to produce a referral for this person. So that's a tier 2 referral, or it could be higher than that. It could be a spin-off referral as well. The same thing for RRI and RRO. That's a referrals received inside. I received a referral from one of my other chapter members that was themselves as the referral, and RRO, or an outside referral. V stands for the number of visitors that you've brought to the meeting. One-to-ones are, well, one-to-ones. Thank you for closed business. And CEUs. CEUs are chapter education units. Now, this one can be sorted by first name or last name. It can also be exported or printed. And you'll see that it has the total at the bottom. You may also notice that given the length of time that you choose from the report, this will show anybody who has been a member at any time during that time period. So if you do a report for, let's say, the last 10 years, you may find people that you've never met in that report, and that's just because they were a member during the time period that you did the report for. Scott says, looks like the member list isn't identical to the others we went over. How does this update? So Scott, before reading your question, did I just answer that with what I said? Is that the member list in a summary POMS may have additional people in it that were members previously, as long as it was during that particular time period. So excellent. Hopefully that helps. Now, the next report I wanted to highlight here is the classifications not in chapter report. Now, what this report is great for is for coming up with ideas for people to invite to your chapter meeting. If I run this report, what it's going to do is it's going to take all 450 or so professions in BNI, list them here on the left-hand side, all of the professions that are not in my chapter, and then also take that and compare that to the rest of the chapters in the region. So, for example, we do not have a plumber in my particular chapter. That's true. We don't have a plumber. But it also tells us that 10 other chapters in our region have a plumber. So what does that tell me? It tells me a couple of things. It's a fairly successful profession in BNI. So there's probably some plumbers out there that are looking for chapters that can't join one because it's already taken in 10 other chapters in our region. Same thing for payroll services and bank services and chiropractor. These are all professions that we should be able to successfully invite to the chapter. The other thing this does that I find helpful is, and I'm sure you've never heard anybody say this in any of your chapters, but I've heard people say in the past, I have no idea who to invite to the chapter meeting, or I've run out of contacts. I've gone through my entire address list. There's nobody left to invite. This is a great way to just get some ideas. Scrolling through this list will, tree services. That might be one that you didn't think of, or somebody who sells cruises, pest control. You can even get into some, security guards, florists, drafting, antiques. All of these ideas for possible people to invite to your chapter. One of my other favorite reports is we saw the PALMS report a few minutes ago, but let's say that you'd like to just see your activity for the past X number of years or months. Or if you're on the membership committee and you'd like to do the same for another member in your chapter. What the personal PALMS report does is it goes back through for one member, goes back through all of the PALMS reports for the past, and will just week by week show what the activity was. This is a great trending report, especially for your own personal membership. So let's say I was to choose myself from this list, and I want to look at my activity, let's say over the past 5 years or so. And through this month, and click Go. What this did is week by week, it took my information out of the PALMS report, and it can show me every single week my activity. Now, if you're really good at Excel, you can even take this information, export it, and make some pretty neat graphs with this information as well. And of course, down at the bottom, if I get all the way down, it will give me some totals of my activity. The last report I wanted to show you today was the Member Details Report. Now, if you go back to your Member Success Program, one thing that we're taught is that we should always do a gains exchange before we have a one-to-one meeting with somebody. Very time-consuming to do in the past because we'd have to go in and fill out the form, scan it into our computer, or fax it to the person, or somehow go through some extra efforts to get that form over to the other person. Through BNI Connect, we can do that with just a couple of clicks. If we click on the Member Details Reports, I can click on, let's say, the View Members Gains. And let's say somebody was going to be doing a one-to-one with me. They could grab my name from the list, click Go, and read my gains before we meet. They could also view my bio from here. They could view my TOPS profile. And they can view my commercials. This all helps the VCP process, visibility plus credibility equals profitability, by speeding up the relationship. You learn more about the person right up front. It opens new doorways to conversation when you meet with them and helps to deepen that relationship faster. We have a quick question here from Scott. He says, is there any way to identify who is the person submitting thank you for closed business slips? And the answer to that, Scott, is no. Thank you for closed business slips are anonymous slips, meaning that we are tracking the person who has given the money, but not the person that has received the money. Part of the reason for that is for, security reasons, for lack of a better term, but there's a lot of professions where, lawyers, accountants, doctors, other professionals that need to apply by or adhere to various privacy laws, we do need to basically strip that information out of it in order for it to remain anonymous so that they can participate in the thank you for closed business process. So hopefully that answers your question, Scott. All right, the last thing that I want to show you, we are right at the bottom of the hour here, is that once you start finding your favorite reports and functions in the system, you can customize your own shortcut menu for them. Now, the way to do this is I went back to my home screen. You'll notice that most likely you'll have a My Business, a My Network, and Chapter. Well, this Chapter menu is your customized menu so that you have one-click access to all of your favorite reports and operations in the system. You can configure this the way you'd like it to by clicking the Configure button. The list over here on the left is all of the things that are in my shortcut menu. The list on the right are all of the things that are not in my shortcut menu. Now, if I'd like to take something out of my shortcut menu, let's say I never use this absence report. I'm going to take that out of my shortcut menu. I don't really use this report. I'm not really using these functions. But, I really, really want the chapter goals in here. And I really, really want the, let's say, the email visitor invitation in here. I click on them over on the right, and it brings them over to my active list on the left. Now, I can further customize by saying, you know what, I use this visitor invitation list all the time. I'm going to bring that all the way up to the top of my list by clicking in the little gray dotted box here and bringing that up to the top. So these are the three functions I use the most. I'm going to click Save. And once I close back out, I will see my new list. So my email visitor invitation is now one click away instead of having to go to Operations, Chapter, Create Email, Email Visitor Invitation. All right, so we are at the bottom of the hour. For those of you that need to leave right away, I do want to thank you for your time. As always, I am happy to stay on these webinars, these calls, as long as people have questions. So if you do have questions, please do ask them now. I will be happy to answer as many questions as you'd like to throw at me. But for those of you that do need to leave right away, I would like to thank you for being here. Just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded, all of it, including any questions that are upcoming that you'd like to ask. And I will post all of it up on that YouTube channel and also onto the support site. So it looks like we have a couple of more questions here. And that is, Carla says, do I have to pay more money for a Premier membership? And if so, how much is it and what does it include? Right now, there is no Premier membership in BNI Connect. That is something that we're thinking about for the future, but it's not something that's available now. Everything that I showed you today is available in the system with just a regular membership. However, regions do have the ability to turn on or off certain features depending on usage in their regions. So if there's something that you saw here today that you'd like to be able to use, please talk with your regional office, talk to your chapter director consultant, your executive director, and they'll be able to work with you to either explain why it's not used in your region or to turn that on. So hopefully that helps, Carla. Scott says, thanks, I'll promise not to hold you up next time. And Scott, absolutely love to get questions, so please do ask as many questions as you'd like at any time. Christine Hansen says, if our personal POMS report appears to be a little off, who should we discuss the stats with? The best person to talk to about that would be your chapter's vice president, or in some countries, if we have international people on the call with us today, that would be your membership coordinator. Now, the vice president is the one that's entering all of that data on a weekly basis into the POMS report, and it just may happen that they missed a slip or two, or if you're using the online slips, maybe a slip didn't go into the right week or something like that. Your vice president has the ability to correct that information, and or your regional office will be able to unlock it for them to be able to correct that information. But definitely, I mean, we're all humans. Errors do go into the POMS report on occasion, so calmly speak with your vice president. They can help you out with that. Hopefully that answers your question, Christine. Do we have any other questions? I'd love to answer your questions. Excellent. Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody for their time today. I have two more favors to ask you. If you could, please go to facebook.com/BNI Connect Global and give us a like. We do webinar announcements and tips and tricks and reminders and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook site as well. And finally, if you found something good in today's webinar, you learned some new things, please go back to your chapters and let them know. A good referral for me would be your fellow chapter members, your regions, to please join me on these webinars so I could get all of the knowledge out of my head and into all of yours. Thank you all for being here today, and happy connecting, everyone. Have a great day.